Hi and welcome back to another Aquarium Gardens video. A few weeks ago we had the pleasure of inviting over MJ Aquascaping in collaboration with Seachem for a workshop here in the Aquarium Gardens showroom in front of a live audience. This video is going to be an edited breakdown of the workshop. I hope you enjoy.
What's up guys, it's Mark from MJ Aquascaping. Just about to get ready to do a workshop together with Seachem at the brand new location of Aquarium Gardens. We're gonna set up a massive 4-foot tank. I'm excited. Hope you guys are excited as well. My name is Mark from the Netherlands. Anyone been to the Netherlands? Yeah, it's not too far, right? 35 years old, and I had aquariums basically my entire life. My dad is really into it as well. My dad is like a fish keeper, you know, like he keeps cichlids. So growing up as a kid, that's what I did. Like I wanted to do what he was doing, so I was keeping cichlids as well. Did that for a long time, but during that time I always noticed that there were like highs and lows, you know, like there were times where I was super excited about the hobby and I was like doing water changes every week, like following all the routines. And then there were times where I kind of like lost interest and like I would kind of neglect the tank a little bit. 20 years later, when I moved out of my parents' house, I found a really small studio in Amsterdam, just got into a new relationship as well. And I didn't have space for like a large cichlid tank. So I bought like a small 30 centimeter nanocube. Like, okay, what am I gonna do in this super small tank? And that's kind of how I discovered planted tanks. And then I just went down the rabbit hole, found aquascaping, found George Farmer, Amano, kind of fell in love with the hobby all over again. But it was different. Like with the cichlid hobby, I had like highs and lows. And with this for like the past 10 years, it's been just a high, you know? Never really got bored of it. Fast forward 2020, wasn't it? Yeah, COVID, 2020, right? Like before that, I was working as a chef in restaurants. And of course, COVID, all the restaurants closed. So all of a sudden I didn't have a job anymore. I was just stuck at home. It's like, okay, what am I going to do now? And I was already doing a little bit of social media with Instagram. But now I had so much free time, I started making YouTube videos. And at first that didn't go very well. Like I had no experience. I had never owned a real camera before, so the quality of the videos was just terrible. But you know, kept going. And now 5-6 years later, making YouTube videos is almost like my full-time job. For the past year and a half, my main sponsor, Seachem, has taken me all over the world to do these kind of workshops. And now, since 1st of March, I have an actual studio. Before I had all my fish tanks at home. And now I have a nice, it's not like Dave's shop, but it's a good size. So that's a little bit about me. So this is actually my first workshop setting up a 4-foot, like 120 centimeter tank. It's quite a big one. I think we'll probably do the hardscape first, hardscape and then substrate. Then we'll take like a little break. I think Dave has some nice snacks and drinks. After that, we'll do the planting, and that's it. And then after that's done, I'll stick around for a little bit. If you guys have any questions after the workshop, feel free to come up to me. So I arrived here a little bit earlier, and I've already, you know, selected the hardscape, selected the plants, just to be prepared. So of course, I looked around the gallery and see like what's already here. Of course, I don't want to, like, for example, this right here, it's a very green tank. This one is going to be right here next to it, so I don't want to make a very green tank as well. So I'm going to do basically what you could call a classic nature style aquascape. We're going to make a cosmetic sand foreground. I'm going to make a hardscape with rocks and wood. And for the background plants, I've selected a lot of red plants. So just to have a lot of contrast in the layout, but also contrast to the other tanks in the gallery. So that's the plan. Now, Normally when I build a layout, or like most of the times when I build a layout, I start with the substrate first. Actually, this time I'm going to start with the hardscape first, because I want to have cosmetic sand in the foreground. Like the first job is to build a good barrier, because the last thing we want is to have aqua soil and sand mixing, because that's like, looks ridiculous. So that's what I'm going to do first. So these are black venom boulders. I didn't come up with a name, but that's what it is. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm almost going to create two like circles this way, and keep a little open area in the center right here. And at first, that's probably going to look very unnatural, almost like I'm making do you call it a flower bed for a garden? But then once we add in more hardscape, substrate and gravel and small pebbles, it's going to look a lot better. I'm going to try to make one of them slightly larger than the other one. So I don't want to have the open area directly in the center. I want to make one area a little bit larger than the other one, just to make it look less artificial and just more natural. I think I'll make the left side the larger area. Now the only downside to these boulders is that they're all kind of roughly the same size. It would have been nicer if there were more mixed size available, but it is what it is. All right, so right now the open area is slightly off center, but I think I want to push a little bit more this way. So I'm just going to move it, make this one a little bit smaller. All right, that's a pretty good start. I do have a few smaller ones. So if you look at this now, like it doesn't really look like. Just wait, guys. So just to kind of give you an idea that the like the style that I'm going for, I've selected, this is how it's called, dark or black spider wood. So I'm going to make two separate islands that are kind of connecting in the center. So cosmetic sand in the foreground, it's going to lead towards the back. And then the foreground will not be planted, it will just be sand and some gravel. But put some epiphytes on the rocks and the wood. And in the background I want to have basically like a mix of all kinds of red stem plants. Almost give the tank like an autumn feel. I know we're going into summer right now, but usually for an aquascape it takes, let's say, 4 or 5 months to reach its prime, sort of. So hopefully by the time summer is over, this tank is going to be looking amazing, and then it'll remind you a little bit of the fall season. Right, so that's the rough idea, but we're not ready for the wood yet. First we have to strengthen the barrier. For that I'm going to call my assistant. Right, do you want to start gluing some of these rocks together just to make sure that they're not gonna shift. Got paper, got some liquid glue. Right, so while Ty is doing that, I have a little bit of filter floss, synthetic filter wool. I'm going to use that to kind of fill up the larger gaps. So like, for example, over here, it's quite a large gap between the glass and the rock. So if I were to put plant substrate behind it, it would start merging onto the foreground, which I don't want. And I have quite a few spaces because they're round boulders. So that's just a real simple technique. And you might say, so right now it's visible, but once we put sand in, once we put some substrate in, shouldn't be visible anymore. And if it is still visible, we can always cover it up with plants or with some moss. Alright, I think I'm done with the filter floss. So I think I'm going to start working on the plant substrate, and then we can do the cosmetic sand after that. So in these two areas that we've created, I'm going to put Aquasolum. So Aquasolum is the aquasoil from Seachem, or better yet from Aquavitro. So Seachem has two brands, Seachem and Aquavitro. Aquavitro is basically only available in stores. You cannot buy it online. It's also kind of a little bit more premium. And it's really good aquasoil. Basically for a planted tank, I'd say aquasoil is just a no-brainer. Like, we're trying to grow healthy plants, so we want to make sure we provide them with all the necessary nutrients. And I don't know if there's any long-term subscribers on my YouTube channel, but I think 4 years ago I did a test where I tested all kinds of different substrates, and I mean, the tank with aquasoil, you could just clearly see like plants were growing way better, and the tank had less algae issues, and it just was a lot more stable. So I've been aquascaping for 10 years, and there's never anything else that, like, okay, that could be a better solution or a better alternative to aquasoil. So yeah, Aquasolum. I'm gonna open a few bags. Besides the Aquasolum, I'm also gonna add in some Seachem Flourish tabs. So the Aquasoil already has a lot of nutrients, but this is gonna be a heavily planted tank with, especially in the background, a lot of stem plants. And the way that I like to run my tanks is with just a lot of nutrients in the substrate, and then dose very little liquid fertilizer. I feel like if I start dosing more liquid fertilizer, I also get a little bit more algae on the glass. So when I set up my tanks at home, I use a lot of aquasoil, I use a lot of root tabs, anything just to make sure that the substrate is just like heavy on the nutrients. It's a funny story, these root tabs, they have a very interesting smell. It actually smells pretty good. And I've been to the Seachem facility in the United States. I saw how these root tabs were made, and always when I smell them, like, it kind of takes me back there again. The good thing about these root tabs as well, like they're black, so they kind of slowly dissolve, and they fully dissolve. So also with some root tabs, they will not fully dissolve, and then over time you might see them in the substrate. So these will fully dissolve and they'll completely disappear. So there's 10 in this pack, so I'm going to put 5 on each side. But maybe just give one pack to the audience just to...
It's actually run out.
Dave.
Yeah, I know. I told you, this line, I sent you one thing up.
before you leave it, before you multitask in?
Yeah, so aquasoil, so it already contains a lot of nutrients. It also lowers the pH, so it makes the water a little bit softer, which is most aquatic plants just grow a lot better in soft water. I think also in the UK, probably this part as well, like tap water is really hard, you said?
Yeah, really hard.
Yeah.
You find that this side would be hard water?
Another good thing about aquasoil is that it's also able to kind of absorb nutrients. So let's say you're dosing liquid fertilizer into the water column. Some of it will actually be locked into the substrate, and then over time will just slowly be released. So let's say you're going on a very long holiday. Let's say you're going away for 3 weeks. If you don't have a automatic dosing system or whatever, I feel like with aquasoil, it's not even really a big deal. Like you could stop dosing for 3 weeks and your plants will still be happy and not show any deficiencies. Okay, I'm going to start with that. I will put in more aquasoil, but I first want to continue with the hardscape, get that all finished first, and then we can finish the substrate and the cosmetic sand. Yeah, so black spiderwood. I've used this a few times already, and I think we all know regular spiderwood. Has anyone ever used normal spiderwood? Yeah. What was your experience with it? Was it good? Did you have the white fungus on it?
Only when cycling.
Yeah.
But I find it goes really dark after you have it in your tank for a while.
The wood itself. Yeah. So indeed, like after a while, it would kind of be the same color as this, right? Yeah. The good thing about this one, it doesn't really have that much of the white fungus compared to the regular spiderwood, and it just looks a lot better as well. Like when you use normal spiderwood, like in the beginning, it's very yellowy, orangey. Just looks a bit unnatural in my opinion, but this stuff looks pretty good. Should probably remove the label though.
Do you have any tips for the white fungus on the lawn that helped him keep it at bay, or is it just the painting aside until it's far?
I mean, it's a natural material, so it's kind of part of it. You can't prevent it, and it should stop at some point. Who was asking the question?
Yeah, I've
Sorry.
heard some people boil it and stuff before. I don't know whether that should make much difference to it.
Personally, I would never. I've never boiled hardscape. I also feel like you want to make sure you keep your partner happy if you start boiling some hardscape. I don't know. So at the moment I'm making what we would call in aquascaping terms a concave layout. So it's kind of like it's going to have a V shape with an open area in the center. And that works in this layout because it's going to be right next to this tank. So you will not really see the tank from this side. Same goes for the other side as well. Like if this tank was in your home and you would be viewing it from multiple angles, you can still do it, but it might be nicer to keep an extra side open. So you could view the tank from the front, but also from the side. In that case, it would be nice to do like a triangular style layout. So we could, if we were to do the same thing, I would just continue the boulder barrier all the way to that side, and then just have a larger wood creation over here and just slope it down towards the right, so that you can view the tank from the front, but also from this side. You could do that the other way around as well. If the tank is visible from all three sides, so the front the side and that side, you could do like an island style composition. So you would have the majority of the hardscape in the center, and then keep the left side and the right side open. That's kind of like usually how I think about layouts, like from where am I going to be viewing the tank mostly? Where's my tank? Where's my lounge chair? Yeah, so that. So those were the three largest pieces of black spiderwood. I'm now going to work in some smaller pieces, just to basically build some layers and add more detail. I always look at the hardscape, see like which side looks the nicest. Like here we have a stump, so we want to make sure that the stump is kind of facing towards the back. I think that's pretty much the hardscape done. Like, of course, at this point you could still spend hours, you know, like tweaking it and like adding smaller details. But we don't want to be here for, you know, another 6-7 hours. So I'm gonna keep it relatively simple and keep it like this. Ty, you want to start gluing again? The Aquasol is in, the hardscape is glued together, so I think we are pretty much ready for the cosmetic sand. I could leave this step to the very last, because when you're soon we're going to start planting, and then some Aquasol granules always get stuck to the tweezer, and then they will fall off and fall onto the sand. But I want to completely finish the hardscape now. We can take a little break, and then after that we'll start planting. So I'm going to add in the cosmetic sand. I have some gravel as well. So like I said, the background plant is going to be red. So it's going to be like red is not necessarily a very light color. Also the wood is dark. Boulders are gray, and once they'll be wet, they'll be even darker gray. So I wanted to choose a relatively light sand to give a bit more lightness to the layout, just a bit more contrast. So it shows the Rio Heaven sand. It's not super light like ADA La Plata, for example, but still a really nice color. So we're going to use that. And I also have some like small pebbles that are kind of similar to the boulders. I also have a gravel here. I'm actually going to put in the gravel first and kind of push it against the boulders, just to kind of strengthen the barrier a little bit more. There's still small gaps, you know, so the gravel is heavier than sand, of course, so it will prevent the Aquasol from rolling forward. Now we haven't we haven't really washed any of the sand and gravel. There's a few gravels on the market that I know are just very dirty and definitely need to be washed first. Like this is okay. It'll probably cloud the water a little bit, but I always find it easier to just put either do a water change or put some filter floss in the filter and remove it that way rather than just putting it all in buckets, rinsing it. And it spreads out way nicer when it's dry. Like when it's wet, it all sticks together. Yeah. Especially this part, you know, like adding in the sand, the gravel is something I really enjoy doing. Like it kind of just brings everything together. Like we started with just these simple half boulder circles, which just look very odd. But now you can kind of see where it's going. So like we're sort of creating a little sand path, if you will. Always try to raise that a little bit higher, so you kind of goes a little bit upwards just to help create that sense of depth. I'm also looking for places where I still see a potential chance of the aquasoil coming forward and just placing gravel on top of that. Now, when you go for a cosmetic sand foreground, you might think, oh, that's a lot easier than having a carpet. A carpet might look like more work because you have to trim it and you have to make sure it grows in fully. But keep in mind that cosmetic sand does get dirty quite fast. So it sometimes it's actually more effort to keep it looking like this. I always recommend to just buy a little bit more than you need, and then when you do a water change, just siphon out a little top layer and then add in a fresh layer every once in a while. How often do I do water changes? I would say pretty much every week. I'm quite religious with it.
Okay.
Like now that I have my new studio, it's still like I'm still dialing it in a little bit.
Yeah.
But before, when I just had my studio at home, like Saturday would kind of just be my maintenance day.
Yeah.
Like during the week I would just work, and then on Saturday I would, just make like a large cup of coffee in a thermos and just I had 10 tanks in that old studio, so
Wow.
it was quite a lot of work. But like a Saturday from, let's say, 9 a.m. until 2, like I could do all of them. Yeah. And just water change. It kind of depends. Like if you need to do trimming as well, of course it takes longer, but yeah, it's a little bit more detail with these. What do you call these, pebbles? Is this gravel or is this pebbles? Pebbles. All right, I think that's the hardscape done. Right, we're gonna start planting, guys. If you want to join.
I will have a go. Still one each.
I have my first assistant, Mr. Liam. He's doing, I've got a lot of different Anubias. So a few larger ones, a few smaller ones. And another plant, which I'm not going to pronounce, looks similar. So we're going to use them mostly in the mid-ground, like in between the boulders. So Liam, trying to find gaps where you don't necessarily have to use glue. Try to just, they don't necessarily need to be buried in substrate. They can just be on the hardscape.
Yeah.
So like, for example, this gap over here,
Yeah.
like if you take that one,
Okay. Yeah.
just place it in there. And that will, eventually it will just attach itself. That's fine.
You want them sort to start.
Yeah, dot it around. Yeah. So Hemond is gonna prepare some moss rocks basically. I still have quite a few of those small pebbles left over, and he's going to attach a little bit of Java moss to them, and he's going to place them all over the sand puff. So basically the moss is kind of starting to start spreading out. We almost have like a moss carpet, and then over time the moss will attach itself to the larger rocks, because right now the rocks are clean, they're bare, which is fine. But just imagine walking through the forest, and you see those rocks that are kind of, over time they've been covered by moss. That's kind of the effect that I want to create. So just by placing those small rock pebbles, over time the moss will start spreading out and start attaching itself to the large boulders as well. And then you're doing the Anubias. I'm going to start working on the stem plants. I'm going to start talking a little bit more about the overall maintenance of the aquarium as well. I want to make sure that when you guys leave here, you've learned something new. It's not just about how to make an aquascape, but like this is the easy part. Like after this, after you fill the tank with water, then becomes the more challenging part of maintaining it and making sure we don't get too much algae. How we make sure that the plants grow properly. So I want to start talking about that as well. Oh, yeah, another thing that I wanted to mention is, especially for the people that are still relatively new to aquascaping. So this is a workshop, right? And we're doing everything relatively fast. At home, I would always do the hardscape first, then maybe take a day or take 2 days to do the planting. Like I've done this many times, I know exactly which plants would look good in such a layout. But I actually really enjoy creating like almost like the perfect plant list. Just when the hardscape is finished, I can really like enjoy. I'll make a list like foreground, midground, background, and just go through. For example, if you go to the website of Tropica aquarium plants, they have like a whole list of all the aquarium plants available, and just like, okay, I'll like to use that one. This one has a different variety, and just that's a process that I personally really enjoy. But you can only do that once the hardscape is done. It's really difficult to buy plants before the hardscape is done. So like, how are you gonna know which plants to use, which plants are gonna go where? So I would always recommend to do it in 2 steps: hardscape and then planting. How are we doing, guys? Same, yeah, Java fern. Don't put it in the substrate. Just find a nice gap. Especially, I like to use the Java ferns like on the larger parts of the wood. Like say for example, this part over here, this one over here. You can also, if you want, you can make the portions smaller.
Okay.
Yeah. Just put them in loosely for now.
Yeah.
Then I'll check it, and then we can always make changes. So basically, all along the border. Another thing I'm sure you guys have heard this a lot is to just make sure you use quite a lot of plants from the very beginning. This is a mistake that I used when I just started. I had my plant list ready, and then I just bought 1 pot of each plant. I was like, oh, the plant's gonna start growing, and then over time I will have more. But so I started my new tanks with a relatively low amount of plants, and that just, in the beginning, that always gave me more issues because still using a lot of light and CO2, but then there was just not enough plants to use those nutrients. And of course, plants are not cheap either. If you want to use a lot in a big tank like this, like you could easily use 50 pots. No, I guess 1 pot is roughly 4, 5, 6 pounds. Yeah, it's worth the investment. Sometimes people they'll buy a really big tank and then they have no budget left for hardscape or for plants. So then it's better to just go for a slightly smaller tank. So you need less materials. While the guys are doing their thing, there's 3 Seachem products that I would like to talk about, which is Flourish Advance, Flourish, and Stability. So if this was my tank at home, I would fill up with water, and I would not dose any liquid fertilizer per se for the first, say the first month. So we've used, we use quite a lot of aqua soil in here. That will, especially in the beginning when it's brand new, it will lose a lot of nutrients in the water column. And the nutrients just from the aqua soil is going to be more than enough for the first month to sustain really good plant growth. But of course, like after a month, the nutrients slowly start to not deplete, but they won't be released as much anymore. So after a month, it's good to start dosing a little bit liquid fertilizer. But the only thing that I'll dose in the first few months, in the first month, is Flourish Advance, which is what they call a phytohormone. You can forget that word. The only thing you need to know is that it kind of just helps the plants to establish quicker. So right now we're putting the plants through quite a bit of stress. You know, they came from the greenhouse, then they were in the shop. Now we're taking them out. We're kind of like ripping them a little bit. So they need to start growing new roots. This kind of just helps to promote that. So this I'll use in the first month together with Stability. This is just bottled beneficial bacteria. We need a lot of beneficial bacteria in the tank to make sure all the, how do we call it again? The cycle, the ammonia cycle, the nitrogen cycle. So these two products I'll use in the first month. I'll take them out and you can have a look at them. And then after a month, I'll start dosing Flourish. This is basically just liquid fertilizer. And this is as close to a all-in-one as it is. So this has, when you talk about liquid fertilizer, you have micronutrients and macronutrients. So micronutrients are like iron, like the calcium, the small nutrients, and the macro, the main nutrients are nitrate, phosphate, potassium. And the main nutrients are in here, but just at very low levels, which in my opinion, I think is great, because the main nutrients are also produced by fish. Like if you think of, if you're feeding fish, you know, fish are eating, they're producing waste, which is also fertilizer. So I like to rely on the nutrients from the fish waste together with this to kind of feed the plants. That way I know for sure that I don't have an excess in nutrients, and that's what works for me. That's just what I'm trying to tell you here. Like, this is what works for me. You don't have to use it, but that's how I run my tanks, and I like to say my tanks look pretty good. Have you planted before?
Yeah.
Awesome. Right, so let's go over here. I have two different types of crypts. Everybody knows crypts. Crypts are very easy, very, not necessarily slow growing, but they're rosette plants, so they just grow bigger. They don't really send out runners too much. And in my opinion, it's perfect plant for mid-ground. They come in loads of different types, different colors, different leaf shapes. So Joshua, you can see here, like, there's like gaps in the mid-ground. If you can just fill them up with these two different types of crypts, that'd be great. Thank you, man. Are dosing pumps. These are quite cool. Might be beneficial for some of you guys that are on the road, or you don't forget to dose fertilizers. So like I said, I'm going to use 3 products from this tank from the very beginning: Flourish, Stability, and the Flourish Advance. Cool thing about these dosing pumps is that you can use as many as you want. Like, you can start with 1, and over time you can just add more and more. There's one primary unit. Yeah, this is the primary control unit. And then you can literally add, how many can we add in total?
Many. We have unlimited. Yeah.
Unlimited.
We got some stores with like 60.
Yeah, I've been to Seachem headquarters. There was a reef tank, 400 gallons with like, how many is on there? 18? 30 different products. But we don't need that much for a planted tank, but I think it's just a cool product that you can start with 1.
Don't have to do 3 or 4 at a time.
Yeah.
It's 1 by 1.
And it's really easy. Works with an app. And if you scan the barcode, it'll pull up it knows exactly which product you're using and how many, the recommended dose and everything. So just something to put out there for you guys. But I think that's it. Yeah. Workshop done.
Hi guys, here we are 12 weeks later since the workshop, and I wanted to do a big shout out thank you to MJ and Brian from Seachem. The workshop was a great day, really enjoyed it, and the knowledge and the demonstration was invaluable. Everyone had a great time. The tank is looking amazing after 12 weeks, and we've added some fish since as well, some x-ray tetras and also some shrimps. What I'm going to do is run through the plant choices with you in a little bit more detail, and also the equipment that we've got on this aquarium. And after that, we'll move on to some cinematic footage and some close-ups of the tank. So thank you very much for watching. So let's have a closer look at the plants that MJ's used. Here we have Anubias, which is attached to the wood, which is, the wood is used, by the way, is dark red moorwood, and he's used black venom rock. So he's got various Anubias attached to the wood and the stone. There's also an interesting plant here called Schismatoglotis priatoi, which is a bit like an Anubias. I believe it's part of the Bucephalandra family. And that's similar, where you can attach it with some glue or wedge it. And that's quite effective as well. We do have some Bucephalandra here. This is a Bucephalandra red, I believe. And we've also got Bucephalandra Kedagang in here as well. One of the main plants that's yet to fully establish on the wood is the trident fern, which is here. So that's just starting to establish itself, and there's another piece over this side of the tank as well, and they will bush out and get bigger and more dominant over time. Around the rocks we've got Java moss, which you would have noticed in the video. MJ attached the moss to little pebbles and then dotted them around on the sand, which is quite useful actually, because when we want to trim the moss, we can take all the pebbles out, give it a little bit of a haircut, and then pop them back in place. And then moving through the scape, we have a few Cryptocorynes. We've got Cryptocoryne costata, which is this narrow-leafed orangey looking crypt. I believe there's some other crypts in there which haven't quite come through yet as well, but they will over time. And then of course, moving on to the back of the tank, we've got various red plants. We've got Ludwigia palustris mini super red in the middle. That's probably one of the easiest red plants to grow. And he's got various rotalas in the background. We've got blood red, macrandra, and rotala hra as well. Now, one thing to point out is the lighting is one of the biggest things that will affect these red plants. If we want to get more light on the sides of this aquarium, I think we need another light. At the moment, we've got a Chihiros Vivid 3, and it's just not quite stretching the light enough, especially on this side of the tank. It's quite dark, and the reds are definitely doing better in the middle of the tank. So we may alter the light later on and put a bigger light on there to get those reds on there on both sides of the tank. So that's largely the planting scheme. MJ did want to inject quite a lot of colour into the showroom here. There's not many tanks with lots of red, so that's exactly what he's done. So moving on to what's underneath the tank here, just open up the cupboard. We've got a nice big Eheim 600T filter. Really important for any aquascape, a nice big filter. As big as you can find for the space you've got, I always say. So lots of flow, lots of capacity for filter media, and that's going to really help keep things stable. We are running CO2 into the filter as well. We've actually got a UNS regulator on here that's feeding into a UNS inline diffuser. Inline diffusion is the best way to get CO2 into the tank, in my opinion. Get a very fine bubble, and also it keeps equipment out of the tank. So we're injecting CO2 in this tank to quite a high level. And the last thing you'll notice in here is the Seachem dosing pump. Now we've got the various fertilizers on here. It's the first time I've actually used a dosing pump in the showroom. Normally I just manually dose. So what you can do is hook this dosing pump up to your app on Wi-Fi, and the app will actually suggest how many mils of each component needs to go in daily into the tank. So it'll give you a suggestion, and you can follow that, or you can alter that yourself. So we're putting in the Flourish Excel daily, the Iron and the Flourish is going in daily, and the Flourish Advance is going in weekly. Now the app did suggest certain levels of these to put in, and we did alter them accordingly to what we feel we need for this particular setup. So it's got full controllability and it's completely automated, and that these tubes obviously just feed from the bottles into the dosing pump, which then feeds into the tank itself. Completely automated, and yeah, it just takes one thing out of the equation for you to think about, and it looks quite cool as well, I think.